Welcome to the Condo Pod, brought to you by the Canadian Condominium Institute, Eastern Ontario chapter. This is your go-to space for all things condo in Eastern Ontario. From governance and legal updates to maintenance, management, and community living, we're diving into the topics that matter most to condo owners, directors, and professionals across our region. Let's dive in. All right. Thank you everyone for joining in on another episode of the Condo Pod, the Eastern Ontario source for all things condominium. My name is Mike Lewicki. I'm a director for CCI Eastern Ontario, and I am honored today to have our guest, Nicole Christy, the CEO of the Ottawa Real Estate Board. Welcome, Nicole.
Thank you, Mike. I'm happy to be here. Can't wait to talk to all of your listeners about all things condo.
This is exciting because many of our members obviously are either in industry, have bought and sold condominiums, and they deal with realtors every day. So having you in here to give the viewpoint from the realtors and their clients, and obviously just the industry, and we'll talk a bit about your history and kind of how you got into the organized real estate, is really going to help our membership to understand the greater reach and kind of how the industry can participate. And for those who don't know, I'm actually a realtor by day. That's what I put on my T for. So I'm interested to hear. This is exciting for myself as a trading realtor as well, and in management. So this is exciting, Nicole. So thanks for giving us some information to start with. So for those who don't know, you've been in the business about 15 years on the professional side of organized real estate.
That's right. I may not look it, but I absolutely have. I started my career at the Canadian Real Estate Association, working on their Realtor.ca apps, working on the Realtor.ca platform, doing project management, moved through to the Government Relations and Communications Department of CREA, which aligned better with my educational background. And I fell in love with the industry. I fell in love with housing, owning real estate, the idea of investment, the financial freedom it can provide people as a retirement savings vehicle, as a step towards housing down the line, that ladder, if you will. And I moved through the industry working for other associations, always in the housing space. And I was really happy in 2021 to return to the realtor community at the London St. Thomas Association of Realtors, and then now here in Ottawa as the CEO of the Ottawa Real Estate Board. So I love it. I love housing. I like everything about it. And the industry is a place where it's very inclusive. You find people from all walks of life, and they're able to really stake a claim and make a business for themselves and support themselves, their communities, their families, and their client base. And I just think it's really exciting.
Absolutely. And to your note, I mean, recently we just saw that the government announced, a housing agency. Seen that in the news recently. And on top of that, most of the housing starts within Ontario are likely to be in the condominium type of real estate. And many people kind of tend to confuse, or they kind of lump in, a house, standard single family, the old white picket fence one, with condominium, where they're both houses, technically speaking, but the difference is obviously condominium is a shared living, right? It's a shared living. So what are some things maybe you're hearing from your members or their clients, because they'll reach out, the public does engage with the Ottawa Real Estate Board. What are some things that we could share with our audience and CCI's, members as well? We have a mix between professionals, directors, and owners. So what are some things we might be able to share with our listenership?
Absolutely. We are, as an association, we track all forms of housing, all the different formats of housing, so that we can better help realtors advise their clients and understand the market and how the market's evolving. We also do it so that the public has a better sense of what the opportunities are within the space. And we are seeing changes in the availability, the demand for different forms of housing. We're seeing that across Ontario, but I'm going to speak specifically to the Ottawa, Greater Ottawa, Eastern Ontario kind of experience, which is that, we are seeing that the prices for condos are holding pretty steady, basically flat from 2024. It's been very sticky despite demand being lower than it has been traditionally over the last few years. So we aren't seeing the huge shocks that you're seeing in other markets like the Toronto, the Vancouver, the larger marketplaces where there was an abundance of condo development in kind of that late 2000s, early 2010s, late 2010s. So we're not seeing the same type of issues that they're experiencing there, although there are flags that we're watching through the stats to see how that's going to progress. Certainly, we're seeing you spoke about the housing starts from CMHC. Their housing supply report came out a few weeks back, and it has a lot of information about how our market specifically is doing, and it'll break it down by CMAs. And we saw our developers and our builders here shifting to rentals a little bit earlier, or maybe they just had more ability to be flexible, to be a little bit more agile. They didn't have the same investment put in as some of the developers in Toronto already had into the process. So they were able to pivot to rental construction a little more quickly. That seems to be what the evidence is showing us. So we are seeing development of multifamily, but more in the rental space than the condo or for sale space. So we'll see how that's going to play out, but it is helping maintain kind of pricing at the moment and healthier levels of kind of demand and supply. Although we are seeing condos sitting on the market for a lot longer. The average market time across our jurisdiction anyway is 41 days, but you will see differences in different pockets of the city.
Of course. In that vein too, and this is something that, the average realtor will talk about either at the water cooler or the after work cocktail here and there. What are one or two things that you might share that can make the public's experience buying and selling condominiums that can kind of help their realtors to support them? What would be one or two things or a fact or information we could share with them?
Certainly. As realtors are after hours hanging around the water cooler or the other types of water coolers that exist around the city. I think it's talking about the value of a realtor in being able to access the information, some of the history around properties, a little bit also understanding where the city is going. Realtors will have access to a lot of the information from the developers, from the builders about where they're going with their development, their future developments, where are they expanding to. And that can help a realtor advise a client and position a client for future opportunities, and also to assess what the value of their current properties are and whether it's time to, consider the next step in the property ladder or looking at other investment properties, or whether it's a good time just to take a look and take stock of the market and maybe wait for a better opportunity to arrive. There's a lot of information out there that is in the hands of some of our members that can help advise. But the also thing that they should be looking at is just if they are looking to sell or they're looking to invest, what's the best way to do that? Selling, we know that our members are telling their clients right now, strategy and pricing, make sure that you have a solid strategy. You're working with a realtor, getting their advice, that your property is showing that you're appealing to the right demographics, because Ottawa is a very unique city. We have some really interesting demographics that can help move properties along. But there's also about managing expectations at this time too, when the market is undergoing some changes.
And in your experience, like you said, you've been in the industry about 15 years, both within organized real estate and I'm going to say, adjacent to the trade organizations of organized real estate with different levels of government. Within your work within the province and of course your time at Korea, what are some things you're seeing on as a whole? So obviously we're talking about the Ottawa, we have Eastern Ontario, which is our kind of our reach for the CCIs.
Attachment.
What are you seeing? Because we're connected to our different chapters across the province, across the country. What are some things maybe you've seen or heard throughout the industry that are trends either within real estate or affecting the condominiums that you're seeing within Ontario?
Sure. One thing that is that's something I've been seeing and hearing about a lot more lately, and it's around the development side of condos, but also neighborhoods. It can expand to other forms of neighborhoods. People are looking to buy a lifestyle, and condos are early adopters of this kind of mentality where the amenities, the community, the events, the neighborhood is so important. We always say, all real estate is local and, you're buying, it's not just the house, you're buying the location.
Right.
But people are looking for that feeling. They want to feel like this is home. This is a place to call home. This is a place they belong. And our built environment and the bylaws and the policies and the shared space and the shared experience, how that translates is so important. We're seeing that across all the housing forms, but it's so specifically unique. Well, I won't say unique, but it really started with the condos, I would say, because they had to build that first, and now everyone's kind of learning from that experience. So I think that's a trend that we're going to see more of is, okay, I have these beautiful four walls and a bathroom, but what else am I getting? And if I'm, being told that, the cities want us to bike more and they want us to walk more and they want us to take transit. Okay, well then how is this development, how is my condo going to help perpetuate that? How is that going to support that vision that we have? So I think that's one of the trends that we're seeing is building a neighborhood and a community, not just a house or a condo. I think the other trend we're seeing is the kind of the migration effect. Legislatively, we're seeing this push for the ability for professionals to be able to interact and transact and trade and deliver services across borders. So I think we're going to be seeing a little bit more of that. So for condos and the condo organizations and the industry, it's making sure that when you're working with folks who are buying and selling and trading in condos, that they have the backgrounds and the information that they're going to need to be able to support clients in the jurisdiction where the client is looking to live. There's going to be value in that. But it also means on the flip side that if you're a client who really likes working with a certain individual or a certain company, that you'll be able to maybe use that person across borders to trade. So that's an interesting development that we're going to start really seeing how it plays out over time because it is relatively new, something that we are watching. And then the other one that we're starting to see is the build out past the Greenbelt area. There's a lot more investment out past the Greenbelt area. One of the things we're seeing kind of in the reports, both from the municipality and from CMHC, is a lot of the development is happening outside of that area. So how are we going to see that play out for condos and the multifamily development outside of the Greenbelt? So it'll be fun.
Absolutely, we are seeing that, and everyone realizes the average person, they think condominium, they think high rise, but there's many different styles of condominium living out there, right from retirement to, single family design communities. So there's a lot of great opportunity for the public to engage and look at their options. It isn't simply the old high rise concept. A question I have, and it's more of a call out on both sides. I'm going to talk about both sides here. One is in the real estate industry, and one is member of the condo industry. If you could put a call out to the condo world, to the CCI members that we have, and people have heard me say this many times, that CCI and condo people are like Trekkies. So when you're into Star Trek, you understand Star Trek, you love Trekkies, you can recognize Trekkies, but they're very passionate.
Yeah.
So this is an opportunity for you to reach out to that community and say, how can we engage our real estate board? How can we provide support to you, your members, or your mission, which is, again, like condominiums, is shared living, making sure people enjoy their communities, enjoy their living spaces. So what is something that the condo community can assist the Ottawa Real Estate Board with and your members?
Absolutely. Actually, it's a great time because the Ottawa Real Estate Board just recently underwent a process to develop their new strategic plan. So we now have our 2026 to 2028 strategic plan that was just launched to members last week. And in it, we're talking about where we see the industry going over the next 3 years and how, as a board and association, we need to evolve to better support members and be future looking, future ready, so that we have that longevity and we can offer that support over the long term. And I think it really does come down to, if I can appeal to the CCI members, it's around ensuring that we are working together and that information that can be fed into our shared systems, or the systems that provide all of us information, is substantiated. So if you're buying, selling, leasing, renting, having it go through MLS systems allows it to be part of the larger data set that we have, that then we can all use to advise decision making, advise our clients, to advise the broader stakeholder community. And I think that we need to be information and data driven when we're making decisions as we move forward. We are seeing the industry evolve really quickly. We talked about the developers adapting to changes in the market. And how did they do that? They had data. So if I could appeal to the CCI network, it's making sure that we're leveraging the systems that we have and feeding into them so that they're a resource for all of us. I think it's also, can we work together on making sure that on the real estate side, that we're informed by changes and trends that are happening in the condo community, in the condo industry, so that we can be responding and we can providing the services and support that you need as owners, property managers, developers, builders, renters, whatever the role that you're playing in the industry, wherever you are along that spectrum, that you're getting the advice you need, you're getting the support you need, and vice versa, we can provide that back. So I think there's a great relationship, symbiotic relationship that we can be having and maintaining. There is a lot of overlap. Obviously, you're a perfect example where our industries intersect. And I think there's a really great opportunity just to build forward on that. One of the things that recently came out, and it's something that we're moving forward with, is we had some community association, condo boards, condo community associations, specifically adult community associations in the condo space, reach out to us about providing more education to realtors on the adult living and what that means different from other condo associations, because they have more, there's specifics in the bylaws, there's specifics in terms of what is what the community is like. There's a lot more offerings specifically to the demographic and so on and so forth. And it's a unique niche within the larger condo community. And we're now able to tap into that knowledge and feed that back to our membership through some educational opportunities. So things like that I think would be really helpful.
That's excellent. And to your point, I mean, I believe the Auto Real Estate Board has about approximately 4,000 members. Third
4,000, yep.
Trade slash association board in Ontario, the third largest. Many of our members, I think we mentioned, you and I have spoken with this before, as many of our members, to your point, are also owners. They're owners within a condominium, or they're a landlord, either what we refer, there are three types of landlords, which would be a reluctant landlord, those who are posted overseas. Ottawa has a little bit of government business here, just a touch in the Ottawa, and right down to the St. Lawrence, right down into Kingston and area. Then we have the traditional landlords who purchase for future investment and growth. And then we have, I think you and I were speaking of more the accidental landlords, with the current market conditions, which happens every couple cycles, is some people purchased at a certain point and the current value of their real estate investment is dropped below their initial investment. So they're in a position to rent it out.
Yeah, we are hearing anecdotally of this. It isn't playing out quite in the data yet, and it's going to be something that's kind of hard to validate in the data per se. But we're seeing folks, generally those kind of millennials, those people who are in their 30s, 40s right now, who bought a condo out of university. It was great when they were single, when they first got married, but now they're expanding their family. They're wanting to take that next step in the property ladder. But right now, the demand for condos, especially some of the smaller condos, is down. So they have opted to rent out and try to kind of come to a market or wait for a market that's more favorable to them. In the meantime, they're carrying 2 mortgages. Yep. Rents are starting to drop a little bit more. You see in Toronto and Vancouver that there's more of a drop in the prices for rentals. We're not seeing it quite yet in the same way, but there's definitely more demand, less demand and more supply. So you are seeing some of the pricing changes. And they're in a place where this isn't what they chose. Mm-hmm. They're not necessarily educated, informed, experienced in this space. So they're trying to kind of figure it out. And there's an opportunity on both sides to provide some education, some support, and help advise them on maybe next steps, because it's a daunting task to be a landlord and then still have another mortgage, more expenses to manage on your own.
Your logo could be right here. Your brand could be featured in multiple episodes of The Condo Pod, reaching condo managers, board members, and industry professionals across the region. It's the perfect way to showcase your expertise and support meaningful conversations. Be part of the voice of this rapid growing community by becoming a sponsor today.
Absolutely, and this is where I'll put on my CCI hat, and from that perspective, shout out to my condominium managers. I love you all. You're amazing. And I bring that up because many new landlords don't realize that a condo manager is not a property manager. So number of years ago, they became regulated like real estate agents in Ontario. There's a registrar, there's a whole different, act, all this fun stuff. So this is just a little, I guess, a PSA that if you are a landlord and you're in a condominium, your condominium manager there is to manage on behalf of the condominium corporation and the ownership group. They are not necessarily there to assist with the landlord-tenant board, to assist with just general enjoyment or engage with that tenant. That's when you would have either a property manager or self-manage as a landlord. So that's just a little tidbit I'm going to put out there because I do a fair bit of water coolering with my condo managers, and I know that's a bit of a pain point for them. To their credit, the government really wasn't big on the whole PR spin when they launched the whole "we're now licensed," so it's not really on them. But to that comment, I mean, what's interesting about the real estate industry and the condominium industry is they are closely aligned and tied.
Yeah.
But for whatever reason, and this is with most levels of any kind of governmental involvement in different, requirements, is we run adjacent and parallel so often, but we rarely overlap where there's an opportunity. So that's why this podcast and others, and we know that you as the board and the CEO is working to engage more within the Eastern Ontario region. What are some things that if you had to put it out there that would be an opportunity for your realtors, not just how we can support, but what would be an opportunity that CCI or a condo board, like that one organization reached out, what would you like to do? What can they do for you?
So let's make sure that if you are doing anything with transactions in the real estate space, so buying, selling, leasing, it's going through renting, it's going through the MLS system, and then it is reaching out to work with us if there's an opportunity to provide education. If you have a unique offering, there's something that we're missing in terms of the education you think that are being provided to realtors on the condo experience, from how condos are managed to understanding the different processes with condos, that would be great. That was the example of the association that reached out earlier, is that we were missing that piece, that there is a very unique niche here that isn't being well communicated. There isn't great education on it, and there's an opportunity because somebody buying into an adult community and they aren't aware of some of the limitations or opportunities might be disappointed. So we want to make sure that we have clients who are satisfied with their real estate transactions, satisfied with the experience they have with a realtor, and they're happy with their purchase and the condo that they purchase. The other opportunity I see is around just working together on some of the advocacy pieces, because I think that there's a great opportunity as we're seeing changes especially with the federal side, with the different housing agency and the policies and legislation that's coming through the pipeline, that there may be an opportunity to work together to make sure that people are able to buy, sell, and rent. They're able to enjoy their purchases, and they are able to be able to access the supports they need if they need them. So I think there's a lot of value on the advocacy side as well.
And on something else to that note, and again, condominium is definitely a niche thing, and within that world, and this is a shout out to my other passion besides Star Trek and condominiums, is commercial real estate. Many people don't realize that commercial condominiums exist, and the members within Eastern Ontario, there's actually quite a large commercial condominium asset class that I joke, when you drive up to the 174, here in the Ottawa area, and you're driving down the 401 corridor, there's a lot of communities that have commercial condominiums, and this is just a shout out to the board that there's an entire commercial division that those members understand the commercial asset, which comes to taxes and a lot of legal paperwork, and also how the condominium, the Condominium Act, the condominium world still applies to commercial condos. So that's just a shout. Many people may not realize that within the Ottawa Real Estate Board, within the Kingston Real Estate Board, and the Renfrew, Rideau, and all the neighboring boards that we have in Cornwall and area, there's a commercial division which can help their commercial members. If you're looking at that as a business owner or as an asset purchase, that's an opportunity as well to put out there. So little shout out to those who trade in the commercial condo space as well.
Absolutely. And I think the other thing that I wanted to mention was that there is a lot of changes happening. I was talking about the advocacy side.
Right.
And we're seeing with the city of Ottawa that they are pursuing a consultation for the renoviction, a renoviction bylaw. That's something that's on the agenda for 2025, 2026. And this has huge implications for the condo community, whether you're a property manager, whether you are an owner, whether you're on a condo board, and what it may mean. We are seeing these things pop up in cities across Ontario. It was actually part of the Ottawa official plan. It was removed because there was supposed to be a provincial policy that was going to dictate how this process would work. And without that coming forward or coming through, municipalities have once again started bringing these to the table. So Ottawa is going to be looking at the consultation period for a renoviction bylaw, and the board will be participating, advocating on behalf of our members, and certainly there is going to be a nexus for the condo community and CCI with the outcomes. So I think there's a great opportunity to work together to make sure the outcomes are desirable and support the work that we all do. No one wants to have folks evicted for renovation that then leaves them without options and without a place to live. But we also recognize that we have aging stock. We have aging stock. We have condos and places that need renovations, or they need to be upgraded in one way or another. And we don't want to impede the maintenance and viability of that building and that unit long term, because the regulation, the legislation is binding.
And that's actually a great point. So, and that goes back to it. So when someone's looking to buy or sell real estate, specifically the condominium space, and I'm going to say this, and this is not me, all those in the condo world know it. The old adage is you buy a condo, it's like, remember the Ronco thing on the QVC or the shopping channel? Just set it in and forget it, the rotisserie chicken thing. So that was the old adage with condos, is that just set it and forget it. And just for my legal community, that's not me, that was what was said. But that's not how it is. Condominium living is you need to be engaged. You need to be part of that, right? So
you got to be part of the community.
You got to be involved. Maybe not a director, which I highly recommend you run for at least one term. Be involved. You're living in a community for a reason, right? So each condo has its own kind of personality. So, if you choose to work with a realtor, they can kind of help to suss that out, right? They get to know the communities, get to know their areas of trading.
Absolutely. And we have statistics and we have information building by building. So we know the changes over time. We also have members of the Ottawa Real Estate Board that are experts on certain buildings. They've sold and bought and rented in these buildings for many, many years. They're very familiar with the bylaws, the rules, the regulations, the zoning, the history of the building. So working with someone who has that background can really make sure you're purchasing or you're investing in a community that has long-term viability, that's meeting the requirements that you have, whether you want to live there yourself or whether you want to rent it out. If you're a property manager, making sure you're working with a realtor who can advise you across your portfolio. So there's a lot of things to consider there, but we have the data, we have a lot of information, and working together, we can make sure that we have a more complete data set, of course.
Absolutely, and to that point, Ottawa, actually Ottawa has the distinction of having Canada's first high-rise condominium.
Absolutely.
I think we celebrated. They celebrated 50 years being the oldest one. The first one a couple of years ago, we did a feature on it in one of our CCI things. But in that regard, if we're looking at, because our membership is Eastern Ontario, and Ottawa members, I know realtors, have the ability to trade across Ontario. We have a great relationship with, all of the Eastern Ontario boards and associations. So if there was something you could probably share to the other boards as well, right? To, the Kingston, Rideau, St. Lawrence, Cornwall, Renfrew, and all them. What are some things you could share for them and their condominium owners and membership if they were talking to any of their boards down there?
Certainly. We work a lot with the regional boards. So we work a lot with Kingston, Renfrew County, Rideau, St. Lawrence, Cornwall, if you're going all the way to the east. And then we also work with the boards, obviously, west of us as well. But right. We have a uniquely collaborative group here in the east that work together on a lot of issues, because when you're able to pool resources and work together on different initiatives, you really do get to have those dollars and that resources go a little farther. So great working relationship. What I would say to them is that they're likely seeing more condo development as we all try to maximize the value we can get out of a piece of land, or how much can we optimize it so that it can support the different initiatives that we have locally, whether it's transit-based development, whether it's infill development, things like that. Is let us work together and we can advance priorities, policies, government priorities together, because there's only one provincial government. We're all working under the same province, same national federal government. Yes, we have different municipalities, but they are looking to each other on how to advance certain issues and what works and what doesn't. And Ottawa, as one of the municipalities with the earliest condo development, has a little bit longer of a history, and we can take a lot of learnings from that. So we're happy to work with them, share what we know has worked and what hasn't, and maybe help troubleshoot some of the challenges they have so that they're making the most of the advocacy efforts that they're putting in at the municipal level. But we can also learn from each other on what has worked in terms of development for realtors and for those that are working in the kind of larger housing industry, for condo, for folks from CCI, having opportunities for training, having opportunities to talk to legal counsel that gets brought in so that they can be a resource for members of the association, members of the different chapters, because that's been helpful, I think, for our members, is being able to access legal educational programs. So we have lawyers come in, talk about the Condo Act, talk about what they should be looking for in the bylaws or in the articles when they're buying and selling, what to be asking potential clients or to be asking realtors and the buyer's agents, the seller's agents about when they're looking at a transaction that involves condos. So I think there's a lot of value there in exporting knowledge.
It's something we mentioned briefly in this call, and CCI is an organization of volunteers, and we have our directors, we have our the owners as well, but another part of that is the professional memberships.
Yep.
So professionals and business owners. So we have condominium lawyers, which, just to clarify the difference, a condominium lawyer typically is one who deals with the corporation.
Yep.
They deal with the legalities of the organization. And then we have our, as a realtor, I love my residential trading lawyers who actually close the transactions, participate in that aspect. But we have condominium managers, we have engineering firms, we have, our accounting firms, right? Look over those sheets and the numbers, make sure things all lining up. So if there's anything to the, I guess, complementary professional sphere, so the people that the realtors or the board would deal with in that aspect, is there anything that those professional members could support the board from, or vice versa, that you could provide support to those? You mentioned having their lawyers come in.
We have a whole program. We have a community partner program. So this is an opportunity to become part of the ORIB community a little larger. So we have these opportunities for corporations, businesses that are within the housing real estate space, whether it's lawyers, mortgage brokers, property managers that can pay a monthly kind of subscription-based fee to join the community, and they have access to all of our communications, sponsorship opportunities, networking, learning, access to some of the stats and the data, and that can be a helpful network to access, a helpful portal to access information and learning opportunities. And with a lot of our sponsorships, there are opportunities to get before the members, whether it's a presentation, a formal presentation, a webinar, whether it's at events where you have a booth or you have some sort of opportunity to connect kind of more one-on-one. So I would recommend looking into the community partner program, because it's also a place that we tap when we're looking for experts and we're looking for expertise, because we don't have it all in-house. ORIB is a 26 staff member organization, so sometimes we do need to lean on other professionals for support, for insight into how different processes work, or for insight on what the industry is looking for from an advocacy perspective, from a data perspective. So we do tap that network where we can, because we're going to go to the folks that we know, and we're going to go to the folks that we trust. And it would be great to have more folks that we know and trust, because those are two things that you can't. It's always better to have more than less.
Well, I will say I know that the condo world definitely does love our data.
We all love our data.
So that's why I think for me, I'm very happy with the two sides of the coin that I'm sitting on with this one. So taking a look at what we talked about, Auto Real Estate Board has their 2026 to 2028 strat planning, which if there's any public engagement, has some question about it, they can reach out to yourself or the board.
Well, that's right. We actually have, this is now online on our members only website for those of you that are also realtors. We have a public copy on our regular website, orub.ca. But for our members, and community partners, there is an opportunity to comment and provide reaction to the 2026-28 strategic plan. We want to hear from you. Did we hit the mark? This was we had over 1,000 members contributing to the development of this through the membership survey. We talked to 20 different industry stakeholders on their thoughts from a largely outside perspective on what we need to be doing and what we've been doing well. So that has all fed into this final report. And I think it's something that the board should be proud of. It's something that is very future looking, and it's something that gives us opportunity to be able to plan, but also respond when things that are outside of our control come up. And we've seen that a lot lately. We've seen it whether it's legislation, whether it's tariffs, whether it's changes to the MLS and board and association environment. There's been a lot of changes. So I think it's got us well placed, but we'd like to hear from obviously members and community partners on what they think. So there is a survey, if you log in to read this, that you can take and let us know what you think.
Absolutely. And as people know, the more feedback you get for a community, the better engaged people are, the more enhanced the information becomes because it can be, adapted and updated as needed.
But I think as an association, and CCI is the same, we are driven by our memberships.
Absolutely.
And the only way things can get on our radar and become a priority is if we hear about them. And if things are changing and the world is evolving, and we know both the real estate condo spaces are evolving quickly, having an early radar, an early opportunity to engage and to start planning how we respond and how we address this and how we make this an opportunity is really important.
Absolutely. And that's one of the reasons, I'm going to give a shout out to CCI. When we started the podcast, we had many methods of communication. But by bringing in what we're referring to as adjacent or industry partners, who we can bring them in to have these conversations. Because real estate is very much like condos. When you're in it, you understand it. If you're outside the space, it's a bit abstract to discuss what the two are. Condominium living is a bit of this, a bit of that. Same with real estate. So if there is any myths or misunderstanding, if you name the top 3 for real estate, or where maybe you're hearing the public's misperceptions of condominiums, I think now's the time we could probably cover off at least 3 of them. If there's anything you may have heard out there or you want to share.
Yeah, there is a few that we hear quite a bit, and it's usually around the rules around condos.
Oh, yes.
And there's always concerns about how restrictive condos are and that they're going to be restricting people's ways of life. You won't be able to have a pet is a big one. I've heard that condos won't allow me to have a pet. I will have a dog. I want to have a cat. Those are things that we hear often, and that the bylaws and the rules are very strict and that there is heavy fines involved and that there isn't enough due process. We do hear that. And while there are rules and bylaws, these are things that you are signing on to when you're purchasing. Or if you're renting, it's something that should be provided to you by your landlord or the property management company, so you understand what the rules and regulations are. And hopefully they're amenable to you and your lifestyle, because that's what you're buying into, is that lifestyle.
Absolutely.
And you're sharing space, and there does have to be some common courtesy when you're sharing space. But those are 2 that we hear a lot about, and they are concerning. Now, hopefully the advice that we're always providing is work with a realtor, work with a property management company, make sure that you're purchasing or renting in a place that meets your needs. And if you want to have a say in the future of that condo, join the board, be involved, voice your concerns to the board. We know because we're in this space, but volunteer leadership is important. And it is time consuming, it can be, but there is a lot of value in being able to understand what's happening in real time, understanding where the situation is going, how it's evolving, and being able to have a say, a formal say in a lot of these processes. So those are 2 kind of myths. They're kind of interconnected.
Absolutely.
And the other one is that there is an unlimit to the amount of condo fees that somebody can pay. So
Oh,
there's
yes.
always this fear we hear from the public is, I want to buy a condo, but how much can they increase my condo fees each year? Is there an unlimited number? And this one's a harder one to answer because we do know with new construction that they set the condo fees, but they don't really know the operating costs yet. So this is where, again, working with a professional who can kind of walk you through what the options are and what's the potential for different things to happen,
Absolutely.
the different scenarios, and show you across the city what the averages are based on the features of that condo. Because we know if a condo has something like a pool, well, pools are expensive, that's going to help people make informed decisions so there isn't buyer's remorse and they're getting what they need. So balancing what they're willing to pay with the kind of features they want in the community they want, in the neighborhood they want. So there's a lot of different variables there. And I think both our members as realtors, but also those of you in the CCI who are playing a role in this process, that's the value you can add to this process and making sure people are making informed decisions by giving them the information and letting them determine what works for them and what doesn't.
Absolutely. And to your point about, sitting on the boards, the fees, different rules and bylaws and that, they're designed by a living entity of the community, right? So, if a rule is passed, or a policy is changed, the ownership has the opportunity to discuss that, and there's a check and balance, right? Again, it's an organization that is at the existence of the community. Something to mention on behalf of CCI is the government does, when you become a director, you're required to take a provincial course. And that's where I'm going to leave that. The CCI Eastern Ontario, CCI within the province of Ontario, the chapters have designed a 4-part director course that you can take as a realtor, a member of the public. It helps inform you as to what directors have to deal with and legislation, governance, accounting, rules, and just being a good director. It's very similar to some training that different boards get. And CCI puts that on, and that's open to the public. There's a fee for it, but it's a really good course taught by people in the condo space. And to your other comments about pets and that, I think it goes back to is education. Mm-hmm. It's we all love online space. I love my online space, but go to the experts. Go to a realtor, go to somebody who lives in the condominium, go to a director, go to an accountant who works in an accounting firm that works with condos, or an engineer. Right? They'll understand. They'll give you the context behind it, because a lot of times people's fear is a misunderstanding. And the facts aren't always readily available. So go to the sphere, the people that you're connected to, and if they don't have the answer, it's quite easy to connect within that space. They'll know who to go to, right?
Yeah, the networking and building out a professional network so that you may not be the expert on everything, but you have an expert in your pocket to help advise on what the next steps would be or what the answer would be. The other one we do hear quite a bit about is, it just escaped my mind. Hold on. Look at that. We were having such a natural, it just escaped my mind. So condo fees, pets. What's the other one? Oh, the other thing we often hear about in the condo community is around Airbnb and
Yes.
the presence of it or the pervasiveness of it, depending on which side of the coin you land on, of Airbnb in condo communities, and what kind of support or rules or limitations there are to protect the community that is living in the building.
Right, and actually that's a great question. We get a lot of these. Airbnb type short-term rentals, which not, short-term rental stays within the condominium space. There was some legislation with a court case that found in Ontario, found in favor of the condominium corporation saying, look, it doesn't meet the needs of this community. So that condominium community, that board, that corporation is allowed to make a ruling in their favor. It wasn't against short-term rentals. It was in favor of the community's decision. And that's something to remember about condominiums. It isn't always about saying no to the owner. It's about the community has decided this direction, and majority does rule. In that scenario, there is condominiums that do permit short-term rentals, the Airbnb type. And it's a very simple request to find out, very much like I want a pool, I don't want a pool, right? I want green space, I don't want it. It becomes part of your question, right? Like a pet. So what happens with it, typically, a lot of them have a time frame of a minimum. So we do have a lot of snowbirds. right?
Absolutely.
Snowbirds in Canada. For those who don't know what a snowbird is, you tend to go to warmer climates in the winter months, which in Ottawa in the area tends to be a bit longer, as does our construction period in the Eastern Ontario with our roadways.
But not to exceed 6 months.
Not to exceed 6 months, right? So you frequently find that out, but something else to realize in Ottawa is there's a further restriction from the city where it must be a primary residence. If there's any exceptions within that, it's within the city bylaw, but there is a requirement that within Ottawa, if you were to do a short-term rental, the landlord must be licensed. There's a registration with the city, and if you hire a property manager, to be clear, not the condo manager, a property manager must also be licensed and registered to trade in that space and work with you in that. So there's some further restrictions, but there is a business for it. It's simply finding out which community you're looking at, right? Whether or not that short-term rental space is something for you. And if there's a business for that, maybe the condominium space is better for you in long-term tenancy, right,
Yeah.
than it is in the short term. And again, obviously get advice from experts, legal, accounting, and such. But there is a misunderstanding with that I'm not allowed. Well, I mean, if you could argue, where I live in Ottawa, I love where I live, I also can't go and build a 20-story commercial building with a helipad on it, right? Now, is that restrictive? Sure. Was I planning on doing it? Probably not.
Okay, Batman.
Right, now that's it. I mean, I probably could get that passed. But that's something to your point. So it's finding out what matters to you and not look at them as restrictive, which some are for sure. Look at it as, what do I want out of my condo community?
Yeah.
And does this community have that?
Is this my lifestyle? If I'm looking to Airbnb this out on weekends or in the summer or in the certain periods because I'm out of town, I'm going to be looking at a building that facilitates that type of lifestyle and that type of
Exactly.
arrangement. So that is some of a lot of the myths that we see perpetuated usually on social media, but also it can be with questions from the public to the board or to the realtors who then ask the board for insight into some of these processes. It's around individual choice and things that are important to individuals and finding the right property and community to meet those needs. And that's where our kind of worlds collide, is that we can bring those two things together by having the CCI providing the services that it provides, whether it's a property manager, a condo manager, et cetera, with our realtors who should be versed and informed on the different types of communities. And if they have questions, there's the opportunity for them to reach out to members of the CCI, whether you're a lawyer, property manager, et cetera, and make sure that you're getting the information for that client so they're making an informed decision. Absolutely.
Well, Nicole, this is, I mean, everybody knows I could talk about real estate and condos all day long, throwing a bit of Star Trek, and we're here for the week. This has been a great conversation. We've really appreciated having you come in and your time today. We know that the Ottawa Real Estate Board, with their membership, is very involved in their communities. I mean, many of the realtors do live in the condominiums they sell in.
Absolutely.
I mean, they volunteer in their communities, as does members of, CCI Eastern Ontario. Is there any kind of like final thoughts or things you want to share with either our viewership and our listenership? It obviously, it's going into the interweb sphere there, so we're going to have quite the reach on this. Anything you want to share as a final thought?
I think the final thoughts I'd like to share is let's continue to talk. Let's continue to have these conversations. The condo communities, the condo CCI, all the folks that are involved in condo living, condo development, condo management are important stakeholders in the work that we do at the Ottawa Real Estate Board, because ultimately our goal is to put roofs over people's houses. Okay, starting that one again. That is not our job. That is a different association.
That's a different podcast.
I think there's a lot of opportunities for the CCI and the board to work together and continue these conversations. Housing is important. Putting a roof over people's heads is ultimately the goal, and making sure that they're able to thrive in the place where they live. And I think that having the podcast today and continuing these conversations is going to be really important moving into the future. I appeal to both of our viewer sets, both the Ottawa Real Estate Board members, but also the CCI members. Let's work together. Let's see what we can do. And hopefully there's more opportunities to have these conversations in the future.
Excellent. Well, thank you, Nicole, again for joining us today on The Pod. the Condo Pod, as we refer to our podcast here at CCI Eastern Ontario. And to all of our viewers and our listeners, check us out on all of our channels, Spotify, Apple, and YouTube. Subscribe to our social media channels as well, and to Ottawa Real Estate Board. All of their channels can be found on oreb.ca. As always within condos, stay connected, stay involved, and stay informed.
Thanks for tuning into the Condo Pod, your source for all things condo in Eastern Ontario. Be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode, and share this podcast with your fellow condo community. For more resources and upcoming events, visit us at ccieasternontario.ca. Until next time, stay informed, stay connected, and keep your community strong.